All right, so we're going to start from where we stopped last time. We are trying to build a landing page for a news agency, and we've already started with our design by creating the HTML file, the content that we need for the HTML, and at the same time we started with the layout of our content, and we're able to work on the header section for desktop and mobile. And apart from that, we're able to start with this section which is part of the main section of the page there, like that. So this is how we have it, or this is how it is going to be when we're on desktop. But once you switch to the mobile view there, you see that the layout will switch with another image again. So on mobile, this is what we have like that. And once you go to tablet and above, then this is what we are showing. But we are not done with everything at this section. So in our code, we name everything according to what we are doing, where we have the header, we have the main. Under the main, we have the top section. Then inside the top section, we have the left content, we have the right content. Then after that, we have the features section, which is everything that we have done here. But we need to finish this top section first before moving into the features. And under this top, we have the left content where we need to do some changes there, like that. We've started with it, but we need to complete everything today. So let me collapse the sidebar so that we have enough room to work with. And let me go back to the page. So the server is running already, and what we need to do here, so you can see we have this, but I told you we're always going to be working with mobile first before going into desktop. So we need to make sure that our title it's close to what we have here, the text, and this button is close to what is showing right now. And after that, we need to work on this right side, which is going to look like this. The difference between desktop and mobile is just the layout, how they are placed. So on desktop, it is side by side for this, and for this other one, it is side by side to the title and this text. So let's put all this in together by going back into the page and switch the layout back to mobile so that we're able to see what is going on. As you can see, our title right now is not looking like what is here. So we need to do that. And going back to the code, and if you look at it, we have this left content like that bottom. Under the left content, we have the left content bottom, and inside it we have this h1. And again too, as you can see, there's some other content there which is going to come in handy once we get to the desktop. But for now, we don't really need too much of what is like the layout. So going back to the page, or going back to the CSS file, we've dealt with the header and we started with the main. Then inside the main, we talked about the top, which is the section we want to work on right now. And as you can see here on mobile, we remove the image that is meant for desktop. And once we get to the tablet, that's when the image is coming in and the mobile is being removed. So we dealt with the image. So we need to deal with the content that is here. So this is where we stop. Under the left here, we have the image. Then we need to work on this the left content bottom here. So I'm going to copy it for now. So I'm going to copy the class so that I can target that h1. That's only the h1 we have on the page. You can just come here and just type the h1, it will still work. But what if you have another h1 somewhere like that? So we might target it like this, it will work, but I'm going to do it in this way by talking to this left content. Then the h1 that is inside it, I want to do something with it. But instead of us doing like this, we can just remove it, and I will still do the same thing because that's the only h1 that we have on the page. But it will not be like that every time. So the element you are targeting might not be the only one, or not the one you want. So you need to apply some other CSS selector to target them. So yeah, what do we need to do? I don't know the font size. of that text, but we are going to just guess. Assuming we are the Figma designer, it will have been better. And at the same time too, look at this image and this text. You see that there is not too much of gap at that side, but if you check the original one, as you can see, we have a little bit of gap at that side. So that is something that is grouping all of them together. So if you want to give that gap, we just need to get the parent. As you can see, we have the left content. So this left content now, we can select it in case we want to apply that spacing there. So what we can do at the top here, select the stuff. What's wrong with my keyboard today? So select the stuff, then from there we display it as flex, so that we'll be able to apply gap in between all the items that are inside it based on the way we arrange it from our HTML there. So if you look at it again, inside the left we have the image, then after the image, that's where we have the content. So this left now, we can just display it as flex, flex direction to be column, and we give a gap, and that gap is going to be in between this and this box that we have here, like that. So what we want to do is that to give a gap in between these two. One way of doing is by giving margin top to this one, but I don't like margin like that. Once they are inside a particular parent, I always love to use gap to space them, because it's quite easy. Yeah, so it's quite easy to do there like that. Okay, it is not showing my B network. Okay, should be showing over there. So I have this section top. Inside the top we have the left like that, and you have the right. So inside this left I have the image, and I have another container, which is the one that owns this text and the other content that is there. And what do we want to do? We want to place them on top of each other, which is there already, but there's a gap that's supposed to be in between this image and this text here. So all the grouping down here, they are supposed to be spaced from each other, just like the way it is from this image. So I want to put this gap, but I don't want to do it from the one that is grouping here. I can just attach margin top to it, and it's still going to work. But I love to always use flex, because it allows you to control everything from the parent, just like the way I want to do it now from the CSS. So I'm selecting this left, and if I save like this, what we are going to have is that it will put them side by side, which is not what we want. As you can see right now, that's put it by the side, but that's not what we want. So we need to change the direction back to column, so that it will still be on top of each other, but we want to be able to apply gap. So if I want that, I can just space them by the gap of these two rem, which is going to be 32 pixels there, like that. And once I go back to the page, you see that we now have that gap. So I'm controlling the gap from the parent there. So the image is at the top, and this one is done. If I go to desktop, as you can see, that gap is still going to be there, because whatever you are doing, it always assumes that it's going to apply on mobile and above. But if you want to change anything to the upper screen, we already set up our media query to modify anything we want to change at that point. Because if you look at it here, I just use that 2rm. Can you see that it's the same gap that is here, like that? So since it's the same gap, or if you want to increase it, just go to the media query for the screen bigger than the mobile, then you increase it. But I think this 2rm is actually okay for the two. So it is the same space that we have in between them, like that. So I'm going to leave it at that 2rm that we have here. And as you can see on the screen, we have that spacing in between the image and this is the bright feature. So now let me continue, which is going to be this H1. I don't really know the size, because we don't know. We're just using our eyes to look at it, but based on the experience, so I'm going to start with 3rm, which is 48 pixels here, like that. So once I save and it looks like the way I want, then I'm going to leave it like that. As you can see, it's coming out right now like that. So we have the bright feature of the web, but if you look at it, it's not that thick like this original one that we have here. How can we change it to thick like this? Is because the weight we are using right now. So by default, all your H1 to H6, I've mentioned it before, they are going to use a font weight of 700 there. Even if you don't mention it, as you can see, by default they are going to use font weight of 700. But this font we are using, I think it have more than that because I've opened it before to you. So your font weight normally it used to start from 100 to 900 majorly when you are dealing with some of these sans serif fonts. So they have 100 to 900. And how do I know that it have all this weight? As you can see, we are using variable fonts that I've renamed. But if I click on this thing or double click on it or go to where it's been placed, so for example refill in file explorer, so that we'll be able to open it as a normal font on the system. So any font you want to use, and if it's something that is supported like this TTF, you can actually open it directly on your system to install it like that. And as you can see, we have the previous and we have the next, which is showing you different types of them like that. So you can see currently it's showing the thing, which is like 100. So if you click on next, as you can see, this is this thing, but it's showing you how the italics is going to look like. So if I click on next, as you can see, this is enter extra light. So this is around like 200. As you can see, the text like that. So this is italic version. Then click on it again. You see that this is 300 like that before you now get to the enter, the normal one. So this is the normal. So when you just see 400, this is how the text is going to look like that. And then once you click continue, so when you say 500, this is how it's going to look like until you get to the last one. And I think this one, can you see extra bold? So this is what I'm talking, this is what we need right now. So this extra bold is around that 900 to 800 there like that. So extra bold, depending on the font you are working with, it can be 800 and it can be 900. So when there is extra bold and there is black is 900 and the extra bold is 800. But if you only have extra bold, then that is going to be 800 and 900. As you can see here, that is inter black. Inter black, the font weight is just the same thing as 900. So anywhere you see black like that, it means it's 900 like that. And if it is extra bold, it is 800. But if there is no black, then if you use 800 or 900, both of them will give you that same extra bold. And this is what we want to use, because what the brother is using currently right now is just bold. So if I go back to bold, as you can see, this is what is using like that, or depending on what we have there like that. So we can change the weight to any one of them that we have, because this font supports different weights. So if I use 300 here now and go back to the screen, you see that our H1, can you see, is now light because I'm using the weight 300 like that, because it supports this 300. And again too, if I use 800 like this, you see that it's going to change from the weight that we have there into the one that I just mentioned once the stuff is done saving there like that. What's wrong with VS Code? It's not saved yet. It's still saving. So let me skip this one that is loading and go back to the page. And once it's done loading, can you see the text is going to come bigger compared to the font. By default, it's using 700 like that. But I don't want 700. I want something like 800 or 900, as you can see. So it's going to give us this thick text compared to the one. Don't forget, whatever weight you want to use is depending on the font. If that font supports it, it will work. But if you use something that the font doesn't support, then it will not do anything, and it will go back to, it will fall back to the normal weight that is close to what you mentioned there. Because it supports it, that's why it's showing like this. That's the reason why we are able to have something. But I think I've used more than what is here, because I think it's okay. The bright feature, whatever stuff like that. So let me check it again. So we have the bright, then the feature of the web, and 0.3 on another line like that. So that means this 3 rem is okay, which is the same thing as this 48 pixels. Or we can try 2.75 like this. So save, and maybe we can just reduce it a little bit. And if that one too looks okay, we can continue with it. What's wrong with this browser today? All right, so as you can see, it's still looking okay, but I've not really changed what I want there like that. So it's using 800, but it's not 800 that I want. So let me change it back to 900 from here, because I changed it from the browser before. And as you can see, we have the text. So the same thing that we did for this container here, we need to do it for the container that is holding the text and this one. Because if you look at it now, they are kind of a jam packed together. And if you look at it, there is a bit of a breathing space in between this text and this text here. And where is that one coming from? So going back into the code that we have here, you see that under this left content button, that's where we have the H1 and this one that is down here. So we can talk to this one too to display it as flex, and we give the necessary gap that we need here. So since it's a parent of this H1, that's what I want to put it at the top here. So yeah, I'm going to have a display of flex so that it can place them on top of each other by changing the direction to column, because by default the direction is going to be row, but that's not what we want. And again here too, let me just give a gap maybe around that 1.25 RAM. It just to be these 20 pixels. I don't know the value, but based on the experience, I'm using some of this common value that I know that is always going to be used. But when you're working in a real sense and you have the actual file for the design, you are going to see all this value, which I'm going to show you when we are dealing with other design later on, how to look at all this value when we get to Figma. So where the design is coming from is called Figma, which is this stuff that I have here. So this is the tool, or this is one of the tools that the designer used to design a site. And from there, you'll be able to see all the spacing around all the elements. But since we only have the image, so you have to guess, use your eye to gauge that spacing. Again too, what are the color and everything, you are going to be using your eye to gauge all the same. But when you are working in real sense, you need to get the actual design file. Then from there, you click on any of the elements that you want to get this property, and you are going to see the size of that text, the line height that is there, the padding, and a lot of other things that you need. But for now, we don't need it. We are working with normal image, and that's why I'm using some of this random value like that based on experience there. So it's not that I know the value, I'm just using random value, and any one of them that works, I will go with it. But if it doesn't work, then I will update it by reducing the value or increase it until we have what we are looking for. And as you can see here, I think it's okay like that. So let me cross check again. Yeah, I think that spacing is okay. So the next thing we need to work on is this paragraph here. So we need to work on the paragraph, and as you can see, the paragraph is having a gap in between each line. If you look at this, we dive the claim into the fulfilling, so there is a bit of gap in between each line. But if you look at our own, that gap is not really there, so it's just small gap. So we need to apply that gap and change the color of this our text like that. And how do we do that? So after this H1, we need to target the P. But you know, there's a lot of P on this page, so we can't just say P. If you said P, it will target the P that is here, it will target this one that is here. That's the reason why I mentioned about this H1. If you have multiple of these elements in different places, and the one you want to target is not the same thing as the other one, you need to find the selector that is going to help you to target it. And as you can see here, the P is inside this bottom right. So we can select this class again, because I know that's the only P that is here. So I can just target it down here. Then the P that is inside it, I want to do something with it. But if you target only the P like this, it will affect everything, because you are targeting all the P on the page. But here now, we are only targeting the P that is inside this class, which we know that is going to match that element. And what do we want to do there like that? So what we want to do is to make sure the text is is having that gray color that we have there like that. So it's having that gray color. And what is the code for that gray color? So we just need to go up. So we need to go up and check all our code that has been set up. And as you can see here, I think the best one should be this dark grayish or blue like that. So let me see, it should be this dark grayish blue. So let me scroll down, and if it's not, we are going to try the other one. So here we are going to have the color, which is going to be this the dash grayish blue. What's wrong with VS Code today? Let me copy the color. So the VS Code is slowing down. So let me just copy the color like this, because I don't know why it's slowing down. So var like this. So paste and save. And once you get to the page, it's still saving, not save yet. So this thing I have to leave. VS Code, Ctrl S. Yeah, so as you can see, that's the text we are supposed to use at that side, but that gap is not there. So how do you give a gap in between your text? So we talked about all this in when we are talking about the text property. So we have the line height. So the line height control the height of each line that you have in your text. And I told you when you are dealing with this property, you should always use whatever the font size that you use there like that. Like this thing should always be relative to the font that you use. And how do you measure the stuff to be relative? You'll be using number. So if you say 2, what you mean here is that this height is going to be 2 times whatever the font size of the text. So whatever the font size you set for the text is going to multiply by 2, and that's what is going to set as a line height. So if I save it now, it's just like you are applying double spacing. As you can see, it's going to apply double spacing like this. But I think it's really much. It's not up to this, so I'm going to use 0.7 like this, which is whatever the font size that we have there, it will multiply by 1.7, and that's what is going to use as the line height there. I've talked more about this under the text property, so you can go back there and check it there like that. So this is what we have here. But this bottom right too that we have here, so this bottom content right, this one too is a container on its own that we need to style, because if you look at it, it contains this text and this button, and that's the reason why they are jam packed together right now. But they are not supposed to jam pack together. So what we need to do, we need to make sure that we style the two of them together too by targeting that container. So we need to target that container by displaying it as flex, and at the same time we place them on top of let me type all this in because VS Code is slowing down. And again, we need to have a gap or maybe around that 1 rem. And what it's going to do, look at this thing right now. So look at this. So we have this text and we have this one. But look at it now, they are jam packed together. So the container that is holding them together is what I'm targeting right now. So it's going to place them on top of each other, and it will make sure that there's a gap in between this paragraph and this link that we have down here. And once the stuff is saved like that, we should have a gap in between that read more. As you can see now, we now have a gap in between this read more and this we dive into whatever stuff that is being laid out there. So I'm just using some random value so that it looks like what we have here. But in a real sense, you have to find the actual value, the gap here. So the value. But how do you do that? Once you get to how to use Figma, you are going to know about it. But for now, let's act like we don't even have the design, we just have the image. So you should be able to work too, not until you see Figma. So you should be able to work. If you see the design, just use your eye to gauge, and you follow the value that works best. But when you're working in a real sense and in a professional setting, you are going to have the actual design file. So from there, you click on the element and you get the size of the element, the font size, the spacing in between all the containers, and so forth like that. You are going to get all of them. All these assets that is being exported like this, you'll be the one that will be exporting them when you get to Figma. But right now, we already have them, so we don't need to be doing all those exports by ourselves because we only have the image. We don't have the design file like that. So the next thing we need to do is to style this button. And again, anytime you want to style anything, you need to check around. Do we have it in other places? If it's not there, then you just style it for that place alone. But you know, if you are using it in different places, you need to apply a class that you'll be able to reuse in different places like that. And you can see here, there is nothing like that. So this is how the button is going to look like, whether it's on desktop or mobile. But there is a different design when it is over. As you can see, when it is over, the background color is different like that. So we need to put this in mind when we are doing our design there. So let's go back into the mobile once again like that. What's wrong with this? So going back into the mobile, we need to work on this button. And as you can see, it have that background color. So let me go back. So where do we have it? As you can see, it's the same thing. It's under this bottom right content, and we have the A there. So we can use that one to target it. So just like the way we did it for the P, then we can duplicate this one down. So instead of it to be P now, it's going to be A tag, because we know that's the only A tag that is there. So here, the color is going to be white. So the color is going to be white based on what we have here like that. So going back there, as you can see, the color is white, but if you look at the text, everything is in uppercase. But what we have on the page is not like that. So how can we do that? So that's where the text transformer comes in like that. So what's wrong with VS Code? Text transform like that. And as you can see, you can transform your text from lowercase to uppercase, from uppercase to lowercase. But what I need right now is uppercase because I want everything to be capitalized. So yeah, or everything to be uppercase because we have capitalized separately. And once this thing is saved, as you can see, it has changed because the color is white and the background is white. So that's why it looks like it's no more there. It's there, but because we've changed the background or because we changed the color to white, so that's why we cannot see it. So in order for us to see it, let's change the background too, because by default the background is supposed to be that red, which we need to use the var so that we can reference our variable. And what is the name of the variable? As you can see, it is that soft red at the top there. So we just need to pass it. So soft orange, not or soft red, like this. And once it's saved, you see that we have but there is a problem. Look at the box. The box is going more than the text that we have there. And if you check the original one, it's not like that. If you look at it, it stop at where your content stop. It's not just going around to the edge. And the reason it's going around to the edge is because of this property that we apply here, because of the flex. Assuming we did not apply flex now, it's going to arrange normally. As you can see, it's going to stop here. But because we apply the flex, by default, and I mentioned the flex is going to make sure that whatever that is inside it, they cover up the entire space. If you don't want them to cover up the entire space, you can change your alignment or you can do it directly from the child, which is what I want to do. So we can talk to the child that the max width of whatever that is going to be, like whatever the max width of this box is going to be whatever the maximum content. So when you say maximum content, you are not just giving any value yourself. You are talking to this thing to look at the content that is inside it. So whatever content that is inside it, the biggest one there, that's what is going to be its maximum width. So which means this read more is the maximum content that we have inside that place. So since it's the maximum content, then the width of the box is not going to be more than that. That's why we say max, not min. Because when you say min, it means that's the minimum is more take. And when you say width, it means that's what is going to stand with. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. But here now, we know that it can go up and it can go down. But the maximum that is going to be there is going to be whatever the highest content that we have inside that box. And once I save this in, as you can see, it will not go more than whatever content you put inside it. So if I go back to the HTML and I increase this thing later, or maybe I just put the arrow, it's going to expand to accommodate this because now we added other content. And since other content has been added, it will say that the maximum is now up to this side. So it will expand to match it. And that's why I did not specify a value. So if you specify the value, once you add something here, you have to go and recalculate the stuff. But you don't want to be calculating this thing yourself because where this thing is going to be loaded is different. So depending on the size you are using, maybe on desktop or mobile and so forth like that. So you don't want to be changing the value yourself. You want this thing to change according to the highest content you have inside that box. And that's where this one comes in. So this one will always come in handy when you don't want the box to be more than the highest content that is inside it. So you use max width, or if it is minimum too, that you want the stuff to maintain that minimum of the maximum content, then you can just say min width is going to be max content. That means it can expand but the minimum, or it can reduce too, but the minimum that thing is going to have is whatever the highest content you have inside the box. But right now I'm using it to limit the A tag so that it doesn't expand anyhow more than the box. But right now, as you can see, everything is jam-packed together. But if you check their own, there's a breathing space inside the box. Why? Because their own, they have padding, but our own doesn't have padding right now. So in order for this thing to work, we need to apply padding. So the first one is top and bottom. Then the left one, which I want to try this value. I'm just using some random value. And I think it's okay, but let me try 1.5 for the left and right so that I can increase it more. And as you can see, it looks like what we have here right now. But I think the top and bottom is really much. So let me reduce it maybe to around this 0.75. That means 12 on the top, 12 at the bottom, then 24 on the left, 24 on the right. So once I save it, it's going to reduce the one at the top and bottom, and I think it's making sense like this. But the text that we have too is not like the one they have here. As you can see, first of all, the text is bold a little bit, and again too, there's a gap in between each text. So how do you put a gap in between each text? We've talked about this one too before, which is going to be, we have word spacing. That one, if you want to be spacing word, that means read is one word, more is another word. So if you want to space them, you can use word spacing, but no word spacing we need here. We actually need the letter spacing. So each character, you want to space them from each other. So you can use letter spacing. For example, let me use a bigger number so that you see that it's actually increasing the space, as you can see here. So the R, the E, the A, the D, and so forth like that is going to add this 10 pixel spacing in between each character there. But this 10 is really much. It's just for you to see what is going on. So let me try 3 pixels until we see the value that is okay with what we want. So let me try this, and I think this one is okay like that. So this 5 pixels, which I can just quickly convert to my the RAM like that, and this is a value when you are talking about it. So 5 pixels is the same thing as 0.3125 RAM like that. So, and as you can see, we have this, but we want this thing to change color anytime it is over. Right now, you're not going to see over on the mobile, because on the mobile is only when you touch that is going to happen. So if you want to see the over state, you have to remove that desktop emulator so that you'll be able to move on the button and it's going to show. As you can see right now, it's showing that you're on top of the button. But if you move to mobile, as you can see on mobile, there's no way the mouse, because there is no mouse on mobile. It's only when you touch, that's when it's going to happen. And I don't want to be clicking on it until I see it. So I want to be able to move on it and see what is going on there. And how do we style your element when it is overed on? So to do this setting for the over, we can duplicate everything we have here. But now, instead of just targeting the A, we want to target the over state. So this is how you target the over state. I've explained this one too before, but we want to do something, or we want to change some stuff when the A is over. So whatever you do here, it will only happen when the A is over. And the only thing we want to do is just the background. That's the only thing. Every other thing remains the same, because if you look at it, going back to the page, when you go to the over state, as you can see, the only thing that just changed here is just the background. The text is still white. The stuff is not changing. The line that is there in between each letter is not changing. It's still the same thing. The difference is just the background, and that's the reason why here the only thing we just want to change is our background, which is not going to be this soft red again. It's going to be that our dark color, which is this very dark blue. So that's what we need to change it to when it is over. So what we are saying here is that this AO, this is the normal setting we want to apply, but once we over on it, we want to change some stuff to what we have down here. So instead of it to be the soft red, then we are replacing the background as this very dark blue. Now if I over on it, as you can see, it's going to change like this, but this thing is changing fast. What if you want this thing to change slowly? That's where transition comes in. We've talked about that one too. So here, from the A itself at the top, we can apply transition. So what you are saying is that when this your background is changing from one value to another, how many number of milliseconds or seconds is it going to change? So is it going to take to change from this soft red to this very dark blue? The same thing too, if you are changing a need value when something is happening on your page, how many number of seconds is it going to take for it to change, or for it to move from one state of the value to another one? So this property background now, so when you are talking about transition, you need to give it which property are you changing. So when is it going to apply this thing? That's what we call the transition property. So this transition is a short-term property. As you can see here, it comes with the transition duration. It comes with the transition property. What are you looking at? Where do you want it to apply this in? So is it when the background is changing? Is it where the color is changing? Or is it when the transform is changing, and so forth? Whatever property you want this thing to apply on, that's the first thing you are going to supply here. Or if you want to specify that on a separate line, you can actually specify all of them. So all this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this single property can change all of them at once. And what do you pass here is the property. Then after the property, what is the duration? That's the next thing you pass. And again too, you can actually pass delay. So how many number of milliseconds do you want this thing to take before it started changing from that color to another. If you look at it right now, it's just changed instantly. But what if you want this thing to wait for a number of seconds before it change from that red to the black? You can specify the delay here like that. If you don't specify delay, it will just change, but it will take this number of seconds for it to change like that. Again too, we have the timing function, which is like some mathematics equation is using to move like the stiffness. So you know, well, just like you want to climb mountain, and when you are going up, it will take you time to get to the top compared to when you are coming down, because you are going to come down fast. So this timing function is what determines the bell or how this thing is going to be moving fast based on the time that is specified. But we don't need to worry much about all this one. The major thing we need is just this property and the duration. That means the number of time it takes to change from one value to another. And what we want to change here is the background. So when background is changing, we want it to take, for example, let me just use 3 seconds so that you can see this thing in action. And let me save the stuff. So what we are saying here is that when the background property is changing from one value to another, it will take 3 seconds for it to switch from one value to another. Can you see there? So anytime there's a change to background, it will always take 3 seconds. It will not just switch anyhow like that. Once it's changing from one value to another one, it will be a 3 seconds in the interval. What we had before, if you notice, you see that the thing is just changing instantly. As you can see, it's just instant change. But with this one now, anytime my background is changing, it's going to take 3 seconds. Or you can use 300 milliseconds like that. So what is seconds? What is milliseconds? Because this thing is based on milliseconds by default. So your 1000 milliseconds is the same thing as 1 second. So like that. This is 1 second is the same thing as 1000 milliseconds, because this thing is based on milliseconds, but there is a value you can just use. S means seconds, ms means milliseconds. So you can use any one of them, which is, this thing is really fast because this thing is not even up to seconds. So if you use ms, just know that this is not seconds. So because it just, can you see, it's really fast because it's not even, you know how fast second is. So now imagine milliseconds, which is low. So if you want 0.3 seconds, then you have to use 300 milliseconds, which is kind of a subtle. As you can see, it gives us this kind of a nice switch in between it. Or if you want a more dramatic value, you can use half a second. So this is half a second. So it's not even up to second. This is half a second. Or instead of you using this thing like this, you can just use 0.5 seconds. It's still the same thing. 500 milliseconds is the same thing as 0.5 seconds like that. So save is still the same value, which is going to give us this kind of a dramatic change like that. So you don't use a bigger value because you don't want to bother your user, because you know, seconds is really big on the web. To you, seconds is just normal stuff, but if you use like 5 seconds here, it's really big. Who is going to be waiting for this thing? Can you see? Who is going to be waiting for this thing to change within 5 seconds? So it doesn't make sense. Even though 5 seconds is small to you, but on the web is really big. So as you can see now, it's taking time, even though it's seconds. So you always use milliseconds. The maximum you use is 2 seconds. In some places when you need to do some dramatic stuff, the maximum is 2 seconds like that. If you go more than 2 seconds, you started doing some stuff that it will, at first it will look nice, but later on when the user started interacting with that element a lot, it will start looking boring to them because it's taking time to just switch simple stuff like that. And as you can see here, it makes sense like this, which is giving us this kind of a switch. So transition, you mention the property, when that property change, how many number of seconds, and if you want to delay it too, you can put it here. For example, if I use 3 seconds, the second value is delay. So how many, can you see? It will firstly delay for 3 seconds before it's now switch. So if I go there, can you see that it's not doing anything? It will wait first for 3 seconds. That's when it will now switch. So that's delay. So before it moves from one value to another, it will delay for this number of seconds to put at the second value here. But I don't need to delay, just start instantly. So start instantly and take this number of seconds to complete. But if you put delay there, it will firstly wait for that or delay before it starts with them changing. And all these things, they have different places they are going to be used. They are really used when you are dealing with animation, opening something like that. You can see this one is opening fast. But if you go to some places, when you open something, you see that they slide in, or they kind of slide up or slide from the right to the left, from left to the right. That's where all this thing will come into use and animation later on. There's another property here too, animation, which allows you to even control different property based on the duration that you specify. As you can see, it looks like your transition, but this one allows you to change different property within the number of duration that you have here. But for now, we don't need them because we are not dealing with any animation right now. Those are the stuff that are going to come in later on, like that. So this is the only thing we need here. And let me go back to the mobile so that we can continue with the other designs. You can see you are not going to see it because mobile is touch. So it's when you click on it that is going to bring that stuff, and once you click outside, then it will go back. So because the mobile is a touch, there is no mouse like that on the mobile. So that's why I have to go to the desktop for you to see this thing easily there like that. But once you click on the mobile, it will do that, and once you remove the click, then it goes back to the state. So it's emulating what we have. So the next thing we need to work on, I think we are done with this. We are done with this section on the mobile for now. But before we move into this new whatever stuff, so let's switch back into the desktop and see how that place look like, because it's not looking nice. As you can see on the mobile, on the tablet and above, this is not the way this stuff supposed to be. The title supposed to be on the left, while the text supposed to be on the right. So how can we do that? So what we just need to do here is to pick it up. So if you go back to the code again, you see that we have the left content like that. So this left content that we have under this top now, we need to talk to it. So we need to talk to it that we want it, which is under it. As you can see, we have this image and we now have the left content button. So this left content button on the desktop we already displayed it as flex. As you can see, left content button, this is it here. We've displayed it as flex and we'll move them on top of each other. But when we get to a bigger screen, they are not supposed to be on top of each other like this. They are supposed to be side by side. As you can see on the mobile, they are side by side, not that they are on top of each other. So what we just need to do, since we've already done a lot of setting here, the only thing we just need to change on the desktop is just the direction. So we need to go into our query, which is this 768 like that. So scroll down to this section and paste the code. Then again, flex direction, because we don't want them to be on top of each other. We want them to be side by side. And what do we need to do? Just change the direction to road. We've already displayed it as flex on mobile, so we don't need to change anything about the flex direction. We don't need to change the gap because the gap is already there. And once you save now, as you can see, it's going to place them side by side. But there's a problem. As you can see here, this title is really big, and again, this thing is not giving a space. They are supposed to be half. So if you look at it here, they are supposed to be half. So this one's supposed to take half, and this one too supposed to take half there like that. How can we talk to them to be half? You know, we've talked about our flex that you can use, and you give kind of a proportion, which is the same thing what we did here. As we look at it here, for the left content, we said it's going to be 2 times whatever that is here. But for these two, none of them should be greater than the other one. So which means this one should be 1 and this one too should be 1. And how do we give them? If you go back to the code, you see that under that left content we have h1 and we have the div. So we need to talk to this h1 that it should have a flex 1, and this div too should have a flex 1, because those are the things that is inside this the left content button. So these two that are inside, we need to talk to them that each one of them should take half of the spacing in the parent. Not that, because right now, because this one have more content, that's why it's pushing this one. But we don't want it to push it like this. We want them to take half. And in order for it to take half like that, so we need to target this our left content like that. So there is h1 inside it. So that h1, so we need to target the, not h1, yeah, it's h1, or we can just target the h1 directly, because we know that that's the only h1 we have here. So since it's not the only one that we have, so we can just say h1, then the flex is going to be 1, just like the way we did it at the top here, that we are targeting that h1, but we know that it is inside this left content button. But because it's the only one that is here, we just target it directly based on its name. But you know that here, this one too, we need to talk to it that there should be half. So we need to come down here too like that. So this one too, we just need to specify that it's going to be 1. So here too, flex 1. So since this one is taking 1, this one is taking 1. I explained in the last class. So that's going to be 1 plus 1. That is 2. So that means this one will be 1 over 2, and this one too will be 1 over 2. That means half. because this is 1/2 is half. This one too will take 1/2. Unlike this one that is 2 plus 1, that is 3. So that means this one will take 2/3. This one will take 1/3 of whatever the spacing where they are coming from. So wherever they are coming from, they will calculate the value. And as you can see right now, they are now half. So this one will take half and this one will take half. Not that one will be bigger than the other one. If you don't specify it, the one that have the highest content, we always push the one that have the small content out of the way. But if you don't want them to push each other, just tell them that, oh no, you take half, or you take 2 times whatever the other one is going to take. It all depends on what you want there. And I can see that this title is really big for this tablet. On this tablet, what do we use here? I think we use 2.7. So going back up like that. So scrolling back up, I've gone past where I'm supposed to. Where's my H1? As you can see, we're using this 2.75, but I can see that is really big on this screen. Or let me check it again. Does it look? You can see it's not like this, so we need to reduce that font size. So on big screen, it's not that big like the mobile one, so we need to reduce the font. So luckily for us, we've selected the H1 already here. So what we just need to do is to change the font size. What we are using on the mobile is that 2.75, but now I think let us use 2.25 rem like this, and this one should reduce. And as you can see, we have a small title which is mimicking what we have here. As you can see, like that. On big screen, the title is not that really big, but on small screen, the title is really big because you have a lot of space to accommodate. So like that. So on the small screen, we have this big title, but once we go to tablet, we reduce it like that. And is it at the center or at the top? Okay, it's always at the top like the other one. And you know, we did not give the design for tablet, so the design that was given to us is for another screen. So once we move to that screen, as you can see that we have enough space. And as you can see here too, that the text is now more than what we want. So which means here we're supposed to contain this paragraph once we get to a bigger screen, because on bigger screen, the text, as you can see here, this text off, or this, the bright whatever stuff, the future is supposed to be on another line, and web3 is supposed to be another line. So here, instead of us using that 2 point whatever stuff we use here, we can increase it when we get to this bigger screen. So when we get to this 1024, you can increase it. But let me check how it looks like on that 1024 first. Does it look nice? And as you can see, it is not like that. So we need to make sure that it looks nice. On tablet, it looks okay like that. But once you get to bigger screen, as you can see, that value is not like what we want. So now on this big screen, so instead of us to use that, what were we using on that line? We're using this 2.25. But yeah, let's just use 2.5 once we get to a bigger screen. And that's what you'll be doing like that. So every time you make sure that your design, so yeah, now let's just use 2.5 for now. If it is okay, I'm going to leave it. If it's not, I'm going to increase the value a little bit until it looks perfect, like the way we want. Yeah, and I think it's okay like this. So okay, the web is on another line, so the web is not part of it. So what I'm going to use is 6.25. So this is going to be 42. On mobile is using 44. So we use 44 on mobile. So this is 44. But once we get to tablet, so what is it using? On tablet is using 36. And once we get back to a bigger screen once again, then it switched to 44. And once it's saved, and again, it's still not up to what I want. So can I just use 7.5 back? So that is going to be 44. And I think it's still not. So let me use 8.75 because I need to use a value until that web. Yeah. And I think this is the value that works for the large screen like that. But there's still a way of you making sure that this text is always going to be like this. So if you look at it, you see that there's a particular width that it maintains. So we can actually talk to this H1 that the width should not be more than that, like that. So, but we need to create another container for that in order for it to start working in that way. Can you see? Once we move to a bigger screen, the web will go to next line. And again, if you want, you can actually increase. No, don't forget we're working on 1024. If you want like this, so just move this one into this bigger screen like that, which is going to be, let's just use 3 rem like that. So which means once we enter 1280 and above, it will change to 3 rem or based on whatever you want. let me use 1.25. This one should be okay. Or let me use 2.25 until I see the value. Yeah, and I think this value is okay, and it's not, but you can keep checking the value because we don't have the actual design file, so I don't really know what is going on there like that. Another thing is for us to increase the gap, or instead of increasing the gap, we put it in a container and we limit that container not to be more than whatever the width we mentioned there. But we did not do that from the scratch, so I don't want to change the code again like that. So we have this. So on mobile, everything is placed on top of each other, but once you enter tablet, it places them side by side like this. And I think this gap is really much on these tablets like that. So let me go back into our code. So let me go back into the code. So where is it? We have this bottom right like this. So this is it. It's using gap of 1 rem, but I'm going to use gap of 0.5, which is 8 pixels. So no, it's not supposed to be like this. Use 1 rem by default on mobile. Then once we get to the desktop, so the gap, no, this is not it. It's supposed to be here. So the gap here, what did I even use for the, let me see what I use. Yeah, I use 1.25. So that's what it's using, but it's too big for tablet. So I'm going to use 1 rem for tablet like this so that it reduce the gap, so that the content we have room to breathe. But once we get to a bigger screen, as you can see, there is enough room, so we can actually increase it back. So here now, just copy this that we have, then we can go back into this place. What I use on mobile is 2.5, but I'm going to use 0.5 like that, and then save it, arrange this stuff properly, then save, and that is going to give that 1.5 in between. I think 1.5 is really much, so 375 like this. I don't know the value, so I'm just using some of these value randomly like that. And I think this one is okay. So expand, as you can see, it looks nice once we move to the real device. As you can see, before we're emulating, but this is how it looks like on this screen. And I can reduce my screen so that it's going to show how it looks like on the other B screen. So on the other B screen, as you can see, it will never leave that our container that we've created like that, because we don't want this thing to keep expanding anyhow like that. So this is how it looks like at 100% for this screen. Then we need to work on this side. So we need to work on the content we have by this side. So we are done with the top left. Then we need to work on the top right content. And there is nothing much on this, is because this one is just stacked on top of each other. So there is nothing much on this. There is nothing much on this. Yeah, so we need to work on this side and nothing much here. We're not placing things side by side. Everything is just going to be on top of each other. The difference is just this background we need to put, and we need to make the hardest part is this and this down part here. Those are the one, and this one too is not even that hard like that, because it's just one item. Once we start one of them, you see the same thing that is going to apply to the other one. The major one is what we've worked on here like that. So we just need to work on this side. And what do we need to do? So we don't even need to be switching between desktop and mobile for that one, because it's going to be the same whether you're mobile or desktop. There is no difference. So which means for this one, we only work on the mobile, and it's the same thing that is going to be on the desktop. Because if you look at it, what we have here is still the same thing as what we have there. There is no difference except the font size, that in case you want to change, because this one now, this title is really big here, but on small screen is not that big, which is just little difference that we can even ignore like that, because it's just simple stuff. It's not affecting the layout at all. So I'm going to go into the mobile, and we're going to use the mobile to just design that part, and that's the same thing we're going to use on the desktop like that. And what do we have? So let me collapse this top. So after the top, no, I can't just collapse the top. What I need to collapse is this left content, and what we need to work on now is the right content. So going back into the code, scroll up, collapse this side again, because we don't need them right now. When we need them, we expand it. So we just need to continue. So we have this, and this one now, it have background color like that, because if you look at it, it uses a different background color. Then it's change all the text, so the title is white and all this one. But once I change the background, everything will just be black, because the text too are black, so it's just going to be the same thing. So the background is supposed to be this. So the background is going to be this one like that. So let me just save, and once I save now, we're not going to see the text again. As you can see, everything is going to be the same because the text are following the same color. So since the background and text are the same, it will not show at all like that. But we're going to bring them in there. So we need to display it as flex, but in order for us to see what is going on first, let me disable the background, and once we change the color, we'll come back into the other one. So yeah, what we need to do first, but in order for us to see what is going on, we still need background. So let me just use dummy background so that we can see the content. So I'm going to use background red so that we can see other stuff. Can see, because this is the reason why I want to show background. As you can see that there is no spacing inside the box. But if you look at the design we're working on, there's a space inside our box. So we need to apply padding there, which I'm going to try 1 rem like that, which should be okay. 1 rem should be okay as a gap. We'll send this AI. Let me disable this AI. So as you can see now, we have the gap. So we need to display it as flex because I need to give a gap in between this title and all the list. So let me open it. What we have there, as you can see, we have H2 and at the same time we have this OL. So I want to give a gap in between them like this. So in order for us to give a gap, we need to display as flex. Then flex direction like that is going to be colon because they are still supposed to be on top of each other. But now I'm going to be giving a gap of 1.5 rem. So it's going to leave this spacing in between the title and what we have. As you can see now, we have that spacing. Then inside this right content, we have H2. And I think that's the only H2 we have. So, but I will just going to style it like this. So for this H2, this is not the color that is there. The color we have is the soft orange, I think. So the color is going to be soft orange like that. And once VS Code load, it should give the suggestion. But if it's taking time, I have to scroll up and just get the color. Yeah, so soft orange like this. Once I save, you see that that one has changed to orange. On mobile, we can increase it. I think the font size is okay already on mobile. What we can just do is to increase this font size once we get to a bigger screen like this side now. So I'm just going to open it up like that. So open it up, come down here. We are not changing any color. The color will be the same thing. The only thing we are just changing is the font size. And by default, I think the font size there is just 1.5. But yeah, I'm going to use 1.875 just to increase it a little bit like that. So all your H2 by default, they are using 1.5 like that. But I'm going to increase this 875, not 85. So it's going to be 30 like this. It's using 24 by default. But once we get to a tablet screen, as you can see, it will increase it to that 30. So now it's using 30. But when you're on mobile, then it's going to use well, yeah, as you can see, it's using 24. So how do I know? All H1 by default, all H1 they are 32 by default if you don't change them. All H2 they are 24 by default if you don't change them. And that's how it reduces them. And you can check all this in whatever the browser is using by default. Don't change it, just use this element, highlight on top of it. As you can see, the font, it says 24 enter. So you are going to see whatever the browser is using when you did not apply anything on that element. Or you can go to this computed and you scroll down, you check all the value, and you're going to see what the browser is using by default there like that. But I've increased it to 30 when we get to a bigger screen. And again too, I want it to be 2 rem once we get to this a more bigger screen. So when you get to a more bigger screen, it's going to be 2 rem like that. It's just to increase it a little bit, and that's all we need for this site. We don't even need to touch all this one again for the other one because they are using the same text. So other texts are just the same like that. So save. So when we're on big screen like this tablet is using 30, and once we get to more bigger screen like that, it will still increase it more, which is going to be 32. As you can see now, it's using 32 instead of that 30. It's just increasing it a little bit, so that is different from what we have on the mobile. But I will go back to the mobile so that we can continue with every other content that we have there. So let me move this thing to one side so that it will be easier for us to see instantly like that. So the next thing we need to target, what do we need to target? As you can see, we have OL here, and inside the OL we need to target all our li. But the first thing we need to do, under this right, we know that is only one OL we have, so I can just say ordinary OL without putting this in, but I'm going to target it like this. Then what we need to do is to display them as flex. They are flex already. They are not flex already. They are a list item, but that's not the way I want it to be. Once I save it now, you see that it will move them side by side because you can actually change it. So just because it's OL doesn't mean you cannot use flex there. Like that. It's only a table that I know you will not be able to use this flex to change easily like that. But every other, almost all the other element, you can use flex to change them. But they're supposed to be on top of each other. So FXDC is just a shortcut for flex direction column like that. So gap is going to be 1 rem because I want this gap of 1 rem in between them like that. And as you can see, we have this. And at the same time too, under this right content, the OL, we have LI. We need to do the same thing here too. We need to display it as flex. We need to place them on top of each other like that. So FXDC like that. And once we place them, but this one now, the gap is just going to be 0.5 or 0.257. It just seems. So the one we are doing now is between this title and this, not the entire LI. Or the LI there. So once I save now, you see that this hydrogen, whatever stuff, and the title under it is going to put at 0.5. Or let me put more value so that it's be more dramatic like that. As you can see, this title and this text. And again, this one at the top, let me just put 2.5 so that it's kind of like give them more spacing, just like the way we have it there. Because we need to input this line. We still need to input the line, which is going to be border. Border is what we're going to use to do that soon now. Like that, which is going to be on this LI. You're going to see now. So, but before I do that one, so under this right content, the OL, the LI, inside this LI, we have something there, which is H3. So all our H3 like this, I don't need to change that title. I think it's looking okay already. So what I just need to change is the color. So the color of this one is going to be it's not even white. It's supposed to be, yeah, it should be white, but the text is going to, yeah, it's supposed to be off-white. And the other text is supposed to be this grayish blue, I think. So it should be off-white, not just white. It's not direct white like this. It should be off-white. Then again, inside this right content, we have OL, we have LI, and we have the P. So this one too, the color will be different, which is going to be that color. Yeah, it should be this grayish blue, if I'm right. But it's not, we're going to update it like that. So coming down here, change the color like that. So save the code, and we should have the, but now this is not the background we want. So let me go back to original background now. So we don't need the red again since all our text has been changed. So since all our text has been changed, what we just need to do now is to switch back. And as you can see now, it looks nice, but the line is missing. And again, to this gap is really small in between all this OL. So I will still going to increase it. So let me just use 2 rem for now, like that, or so that we have more gap. But if you look at it here, you see that there's a space, that there's this line at the bottom part of each one of the LI. So what we can do here is to talk to this LI that we want to use border bottom. Don't forget this border, when you call it, it will apply to all the side. But we don't need it for all the side. We only need it at the bottom. So 1 pixels, then solid, that our off-white. I think is, no, it should be this grayish blue. Yeah, it should be this grayish blue. So save. And once I save it now, can you see that line is going to be at the bottom? But it's close. If you look at it, it's not close to all the content. But our own is close. Why? Because each one of the boxes, don't forget, the content is always closing to the edge of the box. But because we don't have background there, that's why it looks like they are spacing. It's not space. The stuff is still like your normal. So if I use red, you see that all the content, they are jam-packed to that LI. And that's what is going on there. So we need to apply the padding at the bottom side. So here now we can just say padding bottom, because we only need it at the bottom side. We don't need it for every other side. I can just say 1 rem here. So it's going to apply padding because the border is always at the edge of the box, not to the text that is inside. So it's always follow the edge. So if you increase the edge, then it will shift the border to down, which is what I'm doing right now. So let me increase it to 2.5 like this so that we have more space there. And it will move the border to the bottom side, which is going to give us like this. But it's applying it to the last one. But I think on the design, the last one is not having it. As you can see, the last one is not having it. So how do we talk to this thing that we want to do this thing, but we don't want it to appear on the last one? We want to have it for every other one that is not last one. That's another selector in CSS. So here now, we can say write content like this, the OL, then the LI, then we can say not, then last of type here. So what am I doing here? What I'm saying here is that I want to style this li that is not following whatever that I put inside the bracket here. Let me expand this thing very well. So what this thing is saying is that this li, look at it, there's no space, so because I'm talking to the li. So the not, if you put space here, it means you are talking about something that is inside. Don't forget, this is and selector that we've talked about before. So what I'm saying here is that I want to do something if it is not the last. No, this one is going to select the last element. So this one will select the last element. But I'm not saying do this thing when the li is not the last one inside that place. If it's not the last of its type, not the last child, if it is not the last of li inside that parent, what do we want to do? We want the border to be like this. So we want to show this border. But if it is not the last one, you see that it will not apply it. And as you can see here. So what we are talking to this thing is that do this thing for us, but it will only do it when it is not the last one. When it is not the last, that's why the not. So whatever CSS you pass here, it will negate it. That's what it's doing. So whatever selector you pass here, it will negate it. That's the job of not. So in case of this one now, if I want, instead of me doing this crazy stuff, instead of me doing that crazy stuff that I just did now, I can just come to this one and just give it a class. No, I told you, for every crazy selector, there's always a simple way of doing it. I can just give it last like this. So based on this class now, what I can just do is that I don't need to do all this one like that. I would also say not last. This is the same thing. Or another way of doing it, instead of just giving it like this, I can give every other one by giving them class like this. But it's just waste of typing. I'm going to say line. So any one of them that have line, that's the only one that is going to have it. So this one is having class line. Again, this one is going to have, but now this is just waste of typing. In case you add any other content here, you have to be adding the class to all the element one by one. So line again, and I think the last one. So this one we don't need to give it any class like that. So save. So here too, like that. We don't need all this crazy stuff that I'm doing right now. What we just need to do is to do line. So for every crazy selector, there is always a simple way of doing the same thing. So once I save it now and go back to the page, as you can see, it will still work. And any one of them that have that line, that's what is going to apply. So here too, if I come to the last one and if I just say line, because that one too is having that class, you say that it's going to pick it up once it's done like that. As you can see, it will be there. So for every crazy selector, there is always a simple way of handling the same thing. And that's the beauty of this thing, that you understand, not just, oh, because this person do it in this way, doesn't mean that's the only way of doing it. You can do it in different way. The same thing that we did before, we change it to another method and it's still working. So that's the beauty about this thing. That's why I always love to explain this thing first before using them, because that same thing I'm doing right now, another person can do in another way and you are still going to have the same result. So you can see that we have the same result, but we use different selector there like that. And I think that's all for this, which is where we're going to be stopping for today like that, because it's 1 hour already and I don't want this thing to be more than that. So in our next class, we are going to finish with this design and we're going to start with a little bit of introduction to the JavaScript world like that. So we have this, and I think let's just quickly finish everything here. Let's finish everything here. We still have, this is 1 hour 8 minutes spent. So let's what we have is we shouldn't go more than 20 minutes. So it should just be added to the video. So that 20 minutes shouldn't be because it's not going to be up to 1 hour. So let me just finish everything here. So now we are done with this header section like that, and you can add more content here and it will keep growing. Or if you don't want this thing to grow at all, you can do overflow y to be auto and you limit the height, so that when you add more content here, it will not keep growing down. It will just stop here and it will, you'll be able to scroll from here, just like the way the body is scrolling right now. We can do it for this box, which is what we've talked about under the overflow there like that. So we can give this in a definite height on desktop because we don't need it on a mobile. The mobile, yeah, we still need to do it on mobile, but the design did not give us that, so we just follow what we have here like that. And I think this padding is small on this screen, so let me check, but that's not the major thing. Yeah, it's still the same thing, so I will leave it like that. And I think the one at the top is really much. Again, the content we have here like that. As you can see, our own is really big because we don't really use the actual font size, but the browser is different because the stuff that was designed for is not this my screen. So if I reduce it like that, it should be around this side for the screen that this thing was designed for, like that. But I'm going to go back to the 100% and it still looks nice. And we need to work on the last part that we have here. So let me collapse this top section. So we are done with the top section. What we need to work on now is these features, like that. And as you can see, this main, there is no gap at all in between the one at the top here and the one down here. But if you look at their own, as you can see, there's a breathing space in between them. But our own here now, there is no breathing space. It's because we did not style that our main. Let me see what we did with the main. Yeah, so main, we just, yeah, so the gap we use there is 1, which is really small. Let me use 3 rem like that. And as you can see, it's going to give that breathing space. But this 3 rem, is it not too much on mobile? So let me see how it looks like on mobile. Is it okay? Yeah, I think it's okay too on mobile, like that. We only give 1, and we can even increase it when we get to tablet like that, so that it have more breathing space, like that. This one is not emulating this in 100%, so let me expand it because it's not emulating this tablet 100%. Yeah, so this is 100% of the tablets, but that doesn't mean this is the only tablet you have, so you can expand it to see other tablets. And again, depending on what you are targeting there, it will keep expanding. And that's the beauty of this responsive design. It will respond to the screen that you have there, like that. So because we make sure that this thing is not just sticking to a particular screen, it will adapt to the screen that you want. So we need to work on this section, like that. And what's that section that we want to work on? We want to work on these features. And what do we need to do with these features? We just need to display it as flex. On mobile, they are going to be placed on top of each other, not side by side. So let me collapse all this one so that it will be easier for me to move up and down, like that. We're going to see how to use CSS framework later on to simplify this, our media query selector and all those things. So it will be easier for us to just apply everything here and everything will just work. We don't need to start, doing all this thing by ourselves. It's going to handle it for us by using Tailwind or Bootstrap or any of these framework you want to use for your CSS later on. Because look at the small stuff we are building right now. Look at a lot of things that we've written. Now imagine you are building something that is bigger than this. So you don't want to stress yourself. You always want to find a way of simplifying the process. But first, let's do the basic stuff, because these are the stuff they will be doing for you behind the scenes. So you need to understand what is going on. You too supposed to do it yourself before you start finding something to simplify the work. So we need to display it as flex. So flex direction is going to be column. Flex direction is going to be column on the mobile. The gap is going to be 2 rem. Let me check the gap. Let me check the spacing. Is this one? I'm talking about the spacing in between each one of them. But this is desktop. The mobile is what I want to see. So let me go back to that one. As you can see, it's not that much. So yeah, I'm using 2. So that 2 should be okay. Like that. So let me reduce this window and going back to the page, going back to the mobile, and let us see how it looks like once it's saved. So let me save the stuff because we are working on the mobile right now. So let's finish the mobile first. So let me expand the browser. What's wrong with this thing? As you can see now, sometimes this thing used to hang because of the system. So yeah, so as you can see, that gap is now there. So we have that gap of 2 rem. So again, we now have the each feature. So we have each feature. Each feature is this. So this entire box at the top. So it's only one of them I will focus on, because whatever I'm doing with this one, that's what is going to happen to the remaining one. I don't need to check them at all because we gave them the same class. And this is what we're supposed to have. So we need to have this image by this side, and we need to have this other content by this side. And that's the way we arrange our HTML value. So going back into the code and opening each one of the features, as you can see, we have the image, then we now have the class, or we have this container for what is inside the box. So inside this feature, we need to display it as flex so that it can put the image by the left and the content on the right. So once I save now, you see that it will move the content to the right, like this. So we need to give a gap because they are too close. I think this 1 rem should be okay like that. And this image that we have right now, the height is really much. The height of the box is really much. Let's check what we have. So let's check what we have. Let me check. As you can see, the height of this box, I don't know right now, but what I'm going to do, as you can see, this content is taking 2 times whatever the image is taking. So look at the content, it's taking more space, but right now our image is the one that is taking space because that is the one that is big right now. So it's going to shift this one, but we don't want this stuff to be like that. So what we can just do inside the feature, we know that we have image, so this one is going to be flex 1. Then apart from that one, we have the content. So we have the content, and this one is going to be flex 2. So which means the content will always be 2 times whatever the image that we have there, like that. Once it's saved, so once we get back there, it will make sure that the image it's and again too, I can see that it's still not taking what I want because the content is not that big. So what we can just do here is to give it a definite or we give it a max width like that. So max, another thing we can do here, the max width here is going to be, let's just use maybe like 30 or 45% like this, and it's going to make sure that it's slow it down. But I think 45% is it okay? Let me use 40. So you use a value that is appropriate, and I think it's okay at the 40%. So maximum width. Now we know that you can expand though, but don't go more than 40%. And what is 40%? Look at this entire box, which is this feature. Then 40% of it, take it. Why this one is going to take 60%? Because or another way of doing this, just give this one flex 1. So since that one is taking 40 already as max, then this one will just take the remaining 60. Or let me just leave it as 2 so that it will just be like that in that way, because image are stubborn like that. So instead of us using image, you can actually use a box here. If you don't want to be constraining the width like this, you want to go with this, just put it in a box and it will not go past whatever the box that is there. But since we use the image directly, let's make sure that it's not growing more than this 40%. And let me check. I think yeah, it's okay like that. So what we just need to do is to work on the content that we have here in that way. So we need to work on the content. It's supposed to look like this for this and this one like that. So under this content, so inside the feature, the contents, and I think not container, the content like this. What do we use here for that section? Okay, we use span. So inside it we have span. So this one is going to have a font size because that thing is really big, and at the same time is bold. So let me try 3 rem, and the font weight we're going to be using, let me see the weight of the text. It's not that big, so it's just 700. So I'm just going to use 700, and once you save, as you can see, it come outside like that. I've just used random value 3 rem, but I think it's okay. Let me check again. I think it's okay. So this content too, we need to display it as flex because we need to give a gap in between all this content. So fxdc, so that we can have the column and the gap should be maybe around that 1 rem. So in between each one of this content here, we need to have a gap because it's just join them together. As you can see, it's going to give us that gap, and I think 1 rem is too big. Let me use 12 pixels, which is 0.75 like that, and I think it's okay. So the color of this one is not that, so let me go up and get the color. I think it should be this grayish blue like that. So let me scroll down. So where's the section? So this is it here. So the color should be this, and I convert it to variable, then save. Is it the same color? Yeah, is the color that we are supposed to use. So going back there, yeah, the color. So the next thing we need to do is just to target the other one. So instead of me targeting the span, what do we have there? We have H4. So this one's supposed to be H4 like that. The color are not the same. The heading still remain the same. I'm not going to change the text, but I'm just going to change let me increase it. Let me see the text. It's bold already. Let me try to change the font. So the font should be 1.125 rem like this, which is 18 pixels. Let me see if it is big enough. Yeah, I think it's okay like that. Nothing much to change. Again, we need to change this the P that is here. So that one we don't need to change. Something is wrong here. Font size. So is what I want to change. And again, the color here is going to be this grayish blue. Nah, it's not grayish blue. That's not the color. It should be this. Yeah, so dark grayish. This is what I want. So scroll down to that section. What is wrong with this thing? It should be color. So convert this stuff. So save, and we should have our text coming out the way it's supposed to be. Like that. You can see, but there is a gap. There is a line height there. So which means this line height is the same thing for all our text. So the way we did it up here, that's not what we're supposed to do because it's a generic setting now. So, and I don't want to be doing it one by one. As you can see, we did not do it here, which is not looking nice. But the same gap is supposed to be for all the P. So instead of us applying it here, so we need to make a global setting since it's the same thing across. So we can just go up, then do the global setting for all the P. So all the P, they have the same line height. So I don't need to be changing them one by one. But if they're not the same line height, as you can see now, if I change this side, this one too will be the same. And the down here too is going to be the same. So we don't need to start talking to them one by one. Any global setting, just put it at the top. Then any specific setting, then it's going to be for that element alone. So for the P here, there's some stuff going on there like that. And for the P here, there's another thing going on there like that. So any specific setting will go to them, while the generic setting will be at the top like that. So which other thing do we need to, as you can see, I don't need to talk to the other one because they are the same class and the arrangement is the same thing. So it will pick it up automatically. That's the advantage of class. So that's the advantage of class. Since we apply the same class and they have the same structure, we don't need to start checking the other one. It's going to apply the same thing. But this thing is not going to look nice. As you can see, it's not looking nice at all. We need to increase the text. And again, we can actually move them to the center, but I'm going to leave it like this because there is not much of a time like that. I've already clocked my 20 minutes already, but I'm going to make sure that it looks nice on this screen. So on this screen, they are supposed to be side by side. All of them are supposed to be side by side. On tablet, I'm going to leave it like this on tablet because it still looks nice. What we can just do is to increase the text on tablet because you cannot put the three of them together on tablet like that. But on this screen, because the actual design, don't forget, it was designed for 1440. But I think on this screen too, it should be okay to kind of putting the three of them side by side. And how do we put them side by side? Don't forget our features that we have here. The column is, the direction is column. So what we just need to do is to replace that direction to row. And where do I want to do it? I said it's going to happen from this screen upward. I don't want to do anything with the tablet. So because it will really not look nice when you do it from tablets like that. Three of them cannot be on the same line, but there's a different way of doing it later on by using grid to make sure that it's going to show two per line like that. But for now, we don't know about grid. When we talk about grid, it's going to work like that. For example here, if I actually want to do it, what I will just do is to make sure that it is just two per line. So what I will do is the features like this. Features, I'm just going to do this thing down now. So displayed is going to be grid. It's not going to be flex again because with grid, you can specify the number of items you want per line. So yeah, I can just say grid template columns here. So for each line is going to be 2. So for each line is going to be 2. But what is stuff that I'm doing right now, I'll talk about it once we get to that part like that. So flex, you can only work with one direction, but grid, you can work with two directions. You can control the two directions at the same time like that. So that's what I'm doing there. So once I save now, once we go back to the tablet there, as you can see, it will make sure that it is 2 per line. Not if it is flex, you can't just talk to flex like this that there should be 2 per line. So you have to be doing some calculation in your head. But with grid, it's easier. It's always going to make sure that each box is 2. So if you have another one like 4 now, that will be here. If you have the fit, it will go to next line and so forth like that. And if I want them to always be 3, it's quite easy with grid. I just need to talk to you that it's not going to be 2 again. No, it's not going to be 3. So which means on that line, it will make sure that there are 3. As you can see, that it's not looking nice. So this is why I said I don't want it to be 3, because it's too small to contain this thing like that. It will not look nice at all when you go to that. But 2 is really looking nice. And again too, there is a way of telling this thing that it's not even going to be 2. The minimum is 2, but you can still expand. So grid is really powerful. But right now we don't know about grid. I'm just going to leave it there like that. And once I go to bigger screen, as you can see, it goes back to the normal flex, because I've put the code for the flex there. But assuming that you don't put the code for the flex and I just leave it, it's going to be using that same thing too when you get to a bigger screen. As you can see, it will be using 2 like that. Or yeah, I can just see it's going to be 3, but I don't want to do that for now. So this is going to be row like that, and I'm just going to save the stuff. And as you can see here, it's going to be this, but this stuff is not still looking nice. We can just reduce the image, but I think I will leave it like this for now, because once I remove it, it will actually come better once you enter a bigger screen. And as you can see, it looks nice like that. And if I go to a bigger screen, it will not even expand at all, because we've limited the width. So the width will not. That's the reason why we have container. So if you go to a bigger screen that is ×2 of what I'm using right now, as you can see, this is what it will see. It will be at the center of that screen, not that the two will just expand anyhow. Assuming we are not using container, which is what we have up here. So the reason it's like that is because of this container that we use max width. If I remove this max width now, you see that everything will just expand anyhow based on the screen. And as you can see, that it has destroyed the design, because this is not what you want. You don't want the design to destroy when you get to a really large screen. It will start looking somehow like this. But here we know that it's going to stop, and that's why there's always a container, so that when you get to a bigger screen, it will still look nice. Just that it will contain everything at that place. And that's the same thing you're always going to see on every site like that, depending on what you are doing. So if I go to this yeah, I think that's it like that. So let me check this Google font. You see the same thing here too. There's some content, it don't go more than a specific. This is what we have for my screen. But if I go low like that, you can see what is happening? So it's because it is contained. So because if it is just expanding, can you see this one now? This one, there is no container there, but this one that is at the middle, everything is contained, because you don't want to destroy that design when you go to a bigger screen. So when you go to a bigger screen, it will still have a max width, but on a small screen like this one, it will just maintain whatever you put there like that. So at this side, it's just using 100%. But once you go to a bigger screen, as you can see what it did, it's not going past a specific width. And that's the same thing we are doing here. So once you get to a really big screen, it makes sure that everything is still contained and maintain that structure, which is that container that we use like that. We have this again to all these things supposed to be linked, but we did not put the link there. But normally they are supposed to be a link, which is something we can actually emulate. We can emulate that, but it's not there, so it's not a link at all. So we can go back into all this, our H3. So this is it here. So what we can just do here is to be cursor now to be pointer, because we want it to show like is a link. So we need to change the cursor to pointer. And once it's saved now and go back to that place like that. No, wrong side. I was putting it here, wrong side. So this is not where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be on the so it's supposed to be here like that. So save. And now once we go back to the page, it looks like it's a link, but right, it's not linked. We just again too, what we can do is to do that same thing there. So H4, anytime it is over like that. So what do we want to do? We just want to change the color to soft red like that. So save, but it's not linked. Normally it's supposed to be linked, but we just style it so that it looks like the design like that, because the design said once you come here, the color is supposed to change like this, but it's not linked. But you are telling the user that is a link. So if they click from now to tomorrow, nothing will happen like that. But we can actually convert it to a link later on in case you need it. Like just like this one that is linked. And you see that it's showing the link where it's going to go to. The same thing too, all this one too supposed to be linked because they are new. So once you click on any one of them, it will take you to that place. But right now, I don't think we actually need it. So let me style that one too, which is going to be this h3. So let me put it there like that, and at the same time, when it is over, the color is going to be, so when it is over like this, so the color is going to be soft orange, because that place red is not looking nice there. So as you can see, so each one of them is going to tell you that like this. So for this one is using this, for this is using this. So you are the one in charge. You can do anything you want there like that. So that's going to be all for this class. I'll be stopping the recording now and upload it, and once it's done, you're going to see it at your end there like that. And before the next class, I want to see your own version of this design. So before the next class, I want to see your own version of this design. So that is going to be all.